Reggie Star is the newest character released to JJS, and honestly, he's a ton of fun. While I wouldn't consider him the strongest character ever, since there's a lot of flaws in his kit that you'll really feel against good players, he's definitely solid and can hold his own if you play him well, but you do have to think about everything you do, and he's by no means a brain-dead character. I'm not going to go into an explanation on every single move in Reggie's kit and how it specifically works in this video. I did that in my initial overview of the update, so if that's what you're looking for, consider checking it out in the pinned comment down below or read the JJS wiki. This video is more an explanation of Reggie, a bit on how to play him, and my thoughts on where he stands balance-wise as an evaluation of the character overall. Before we get into it, do consider subscribing to stay up to date on anything JJS, and now, let's talk about Reggie. Reggie in terms of archetype is an all-rounder and a gimmick character. He's probably the closest to an actual all-rounder we have so far, where he both has some great projectiles to do damage from a distance, but also really needs to get in close to do any meaningful damage and has to M1 trade. He's also a gimmick character because of that whole move rotation thing. His gameplay right now, this is subject to change as he gets more moves, revolves around throwing out his projectiles for some chip damage whenever he can, and then engaging in M1 trades with the opponent using littering to make himself safer, and to do combos for damage. He's kind of basic underneath all the fluff, but he does genuinely have to freestyle his combos every time, not that fake kind of, oh now there's a freestyle cause he's green crap. Reggie's actually a freestyle character. Strength-wise, Reggie for me falls into that category of characters where they absolutely can work and can perform at the same level as good characters, but you have to work much harder than you would with other characters for the same kind of results. His neutral isn't good enough to completely shut down M1 merchants and ignore M1 trading, and his damage is a bit on the lower end too, so he honestly doesn't do that well against M1 merchants with good damage like Gojo or Locust. We'll get to that later though when we talk about his strength overall. First, let's talk about his neutral. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's fake. Garage Sale and Gushing Wound are respectable pokes, so is Coupon Home Run, and then Littering is a really nice move, both defensively to stall out cooldowns, and offensively since it can cover you while you go in for an M1 or something, and make otherwise unsafe actions safe. But that's kind of where it all ends, and pokes are at the end of the day, just pokes. Being able to throw a knife at your opponent and deal 9 damage, 12 if you count the bleed out, that's really hard to avoid, or being able to blast them with furniture and being safe on all of that, I mean, that's good. Damage is damage. However, if Reggie wants to actually get any kind of meaningful damage, he has to go in and do an M1 combo so that he can hit his opponent with those hard-hitting moves that actually deal damage like uppercut, home run, or blunt trauma, or the piano. He reminds me a lot of Kuroshi, where you have all these sort of decent options that do stuff and can hit people, but if you want to do anything, it really boils down to M1s. Then you compare that to good characters like Ryu, or Megumi, or Choso, or Mekamaru, or even Haruta, and all these people can convert off their good neutral options to deal some insane damage, and so they get put at the top of every tier list. Reggie's neutral is fine, and it can be hard to get in against him, but he's not at the level where you can ignore M1 trading, and I'd say he's like more above average than brokenly overpowered. In general, Reggie's entire neutral is carried on its back by Littering. Littering is basically a ranged flowing red scale aerial, and it does a job it's supposed to really well. You toss it onto somebody, and then you go in for a side dash M1 or some other kind of attack. If they block it and try to punish you, just activate Littering, and there you go, you're back to neutral. Or you can even try to attack again because now you're in the air, so you can do a roll or drop down on any side, and they have to look up to tell where you are. Kind of like Mei Mei's neutral R. As long as you're in that range that Littering covers, you, as Reggie, are completely safe. This is great for stalling out cooldowns too. Your opponent straight up can't approach until Littering is gone. The issue though is when Littering is gone. Without Littering, Reggie basically has nothing and he turns into this M1 trading vegetable with some pokes on the side. His whole neutral is basically just use Littering, M1 trade them, and throw out Garage Sale and Gushing Wound whenever you think it's gonna hit or you won't get punished. His other moves that aren't Littering or pokes just don't really perform too well in neutral, and they're mostly for combos. Mostly. Blunt Trauma is so punishable and has such a small hitbox, and is also really easy to M1 Reggie out of, that it's always a gamble never worth taking. Home Run is a generic block bypass, and the hitbox on it is pretty small, on top of it being punishable on whiff. It's basically a clone of Elbow Drop, and while it's not bad, I've been able to make it work as a mix-up by side dashing into people's faces, and then using it when they expect an M1. You also risk missing it entirely, or getting M1'd out of it, or them just side dashing it and then punishing you with a forward dash. The coupon variant is okay too, but the ragdoll is kind of short, so you struggle to get value even if you get a guard break, and the ball itself only does 4 damage, which is extremely low. Piano is a weird one though. Normal piano is pretty mid. The hitbox is so tiny that it'll almost never hit, the startup is super long, and the whole can't be cancelled once the piano is falling aspect is super overblown right now, probably because Reggie's new and people don't know how to counter him. You can't use this as a counter because you have startup on actually summoning the piano, so you either get bum rushed and interrupted before the piano falls, or they see you're summoning it and don't rush in. And they can tell when it's falling because it casts a shadow and has a noise for falling through the air. Coupon piano is a more interesting case though. When you've couponed the piano, the hitbox gets a lot bigger, and it's way more respectable. It's to the point that if someone burns their side dash, the piano could feasibly hit them. The ragdoll is also really long. I mean, on piano it's long too, the issue is just hitting it. And so that makes it a good combo starter into something like Blunt Trauma, or Garage Sale, or Glittering, as long as you know that they don't have evasive. The other thing about it is that the hitbox being bigger means it can actually cover you if you try something punishable, the same way that Littering does. Backdashing into Red Seal Piano, and then going back to them to use something like Blunt Trauma, either forces them to side dash out of the way, or eat a load of damage. It's pretty solid. As for Coupon, let's talk about this. Coupon is kind of bad, and it's in a weird spot as a move. At the start of the match, amazing. Use it on Gushing Wound, Home Run, or Littering, it empowers the move, 8-second cooldown, so by the time you reach your opponent and neutral actually kicks off, your move slot should be off cooldown. No real downside to using it, it's a free buff. When you're actually fighting someone, that 8-second cooldown really matters though. Unless you want to be a bit... play cooldowns and stall for 8 seconds in the middle of fighting somebody, you're always better off discarding the coupon. The problem with buffs in any game, or like having buffers on a team, is that it has to justify its place over some other kind of DPS option or move. Jester in Darkest Dungeon is awesome because its accuracy buff lets you hit enemies with high dodge or makes Leper not miss 100% of the time. Coupon variants, on the other hand, rarely ever do anything good enough to justify not having one of your other moves ready. Basically, one buffed move is worse than 2 unbuffed moves generally. It's good at the start, or after you take a stock, because that whole opportunity cost is removed from the equation and you just get the buff. But when you're actively fighting someone, then it's an issue. Let's talk about the coupon variants as well, because most of them amount to more damage, but aren't that meaningful neutral-wise. Gushing Wound and Blunt Trauma fall into the same category. They make the move deal more damage. Sticking someone with every single knife in Gushing Wound does 7.5 more damage for a total of 16.5, basically 20 if you include the bleed stack, and Blunt Trauma gets 8 more damage from its extra hit, plus the concussion status gets extended to 8 seconds, making the move deal 25 damage and provide a great debuff to let you M1 them on Wake Up because they can't side dash. Neither of these actually make the move that much better in neutral. Gushing Wound is still jumpable, and nothing about Blunt Trauma changes. It's still a move purely for combos, but those are notable damage buffs. Home Run and Garage Sale are basically one and the same as well. They're a ranged ragdoll, and while they could be good, they just kinda suffer from Reggie's lack of options for converting off a ranged ragdoll safely. If you know you don't have ragdoll cancel, and you land this move up close, then you can follow up with Blunt Trauma, sure, but otherwise you just hit them for 4 damage and that's it. I already talked about Piano, so I'm not gonna rehash it here, and the last one is Coupon Littering. I like this move personally, it doesn't seem like the most popular from the discussions I've had though. People can tell when it's happening because Reggie throws way more receipts than normal, but if they don't know to tell and they go into the range, then it can sometimes catch them. It's also good block pressure, throw the receipts down and immediately activate, and you kind of have yourself a budget rapid escape that also boosts you in the air to make your M1s a little harder to block. If they step out of the range though, yeah, it's useless, and base Littering is already an insanely good move. The coupon variant doesn't do too much that the original doesn't already do well enough. So all of that said, Reggie's coupons either make his moves deal more damage, make them slightly better in neutral with a flaw that makes that buff kind of irrelevant, or make them genuinely better in neutral. Nothing here is good enough though to justify the buff over another move, but again, after a kill or at round start, it's fine. Round start you should either coupon Gushing Wound or Glittering based on preference. Home Run isn't that good. To reiterate his neutral, he's a character who rushdowns by throwing Littering onto someone so that he can safely get in, and a character who zones with projectiles. with the rest of his moves acting as strong combo filler to deal damage. He's decently good in neutral, and if you simply play around littering, the opponent is going to struggle hard, but during that downtime, Reggie's neutral is pretty whatever. Then for combo damage, Reggie's also kind of in a weird spot. In order for Reggie to be evasive safe, or even do good combo damage in the first place, he needs certain moves. To be evasive safe, he needs littering or piano. Littering is obvious. It makes him safe from everything, including evasive punishes. Piano, on the other hand, can threaten some good damage from a distance if they don't ragdoll cancel that. The issue is that because Reggie's combo routes that are safe from evasive are so limited, and his ways to bait evasive are so limited, you can't actually freestyle his combos most of the time the way you would like to. Because if you try just pressing all the keys on his keyboard, they will evasive and M1 you. This really hurts his damage too, because even though he might have won an interaction with this straight hit or something, you can't do anything off of that. All these proper reads and mistakes from your opponent, and all of them add up to like 20 damage. This isn't a call to buff his numbers, it's more an issue with his roots and ability to convert off of successfully landing hits. And I'm not honestly too concerned with this. Reggie is super unfinished, so it's likely that the new moves he will get will give him more ways to convert off of a straight hit. However, for now, he still has this issue. Like, the coupon variant on Garage Sale sounds really good, because theoretically, you could ragdoll them into blunt trauma and basically have yourself a free combo starter. In practice, you won't have littering, you might not have blunt trauma, and if you do have blunt trauma but you don't have littering, that will just ragdoll cancel and punish you. Your safe combos are either off M1s, like 3 M1s plus blunt trauma plus piano plus Garage Sale, or they need littering to be safe. That doesn't mean his damage is awful. You'll see that I'm pulling off good combos and dealing good damage in my background footage, but it's inconsistent at times. Like, I'll sometimes do one massive combo for a crazy amount of damage, and then the next time I win an interaction, I'll hit them one time and then back off. It's not like Gojo or Locust guy, where every time you hit them, you're dealing like half their HP. And he also needs certain moves to do good damage, because not all of them actually do damage. Blunt Trauma and Home Run are his best moves for combos, with Blunt Trauma doing an insane 17 damage base and 25 with the coupon variant, and then Home Run doing 17 damage if you uppercut into it. That's really good numbers, but if you don't have those moves when you land a hit, you're Timmy Tickle time. In terms of how to fight Reggie, it's not too hard. If he throws littering on you, get out of there and just wait for him to step out of it. You can jump over Gushing Wound, you should block Garage Sale, and if you want to be super safe, maybe walk backwards in case it's a coupon variant, so that he can't do anything off of it. If you see a shadow, that means the piano is falling, just move off of the Reggie, and everything else is a combo tool except for Home Run. Sometimes he'll dash in your face and use it as a mix-up, but just treat that like how you counter rapid punches. Oh, and if he tries using Blunt Trauma in neutral, block or dodge that, and punish them so that they don't try something stupid like that again. I recommend turning around because most of them will try to hit your back with the move if they do use it. Reggie is overall a pretty solid character. He's not a top tier, nothing he has is really broken, but I would say he's comparable to Yuki in strength. A lot of his neutral rides on a single move, but that one move is so good that it genuinely does give him pretty good neutral on its own. You are also constantly chipping him down with stuff like Gushing Wound, which is really nice. He works harder than other characters to win, but I've had a ton of fun on him, and he's probably going to be my other main next to Higuruma, because he's just a satisfying character to play, with a gimmick that isn't boring or repetitive. With that said, that is my evaluation of Reggie. If you enjoyed watching this video, then consider liking and subscribing for more analysis of JJS characters. With that, I'm Noob Eternally, thanks for watching, and have a good day. Bye.